The Biden administration is taking the first step in possibly legalizing marijuana federally. What? I already thought it was legal. Well, it may be legal in your state, but federally, it's not. And that contradiction has led to all kinds of issues that could be resolved very soon. So I'm going to tell you what just happened in a second, but first, I want to thank my TikTok subscribers for voting for this story as the bonus this week. If you want to vote too, you can subscribe to my page during my next live event, or you can just follow these steps and subscribe right now. Okay, before I tell you what just happened, you have to understand the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. That federal law categorizes drugs depending on medical use and the drug's abuse or dependency potential. There are 5 schedules. Schedule 1 drugs are substances with no currently accepted medical use and high potential for abuse, like the most dangerous drugs. And then Schedule 5 drugs have the lowest potential for abuse and have limited quantities of narcotics included. Currently, marijuana is classified as a Schedule 1 drug. That's the same category as heroin and LSD. Okay, so now that you understand the law, here's what's happening. In 2022, President Biden told the Secretary of Health and Human Services to review how marijuana is classified under that Controlled Substances Act. And last week, it appears that federal review is over because HHS fired off a letter to the Drug Enforcement Agency recommending that they move marijuana to a lower risk category from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. Schedule 3 drugs are categorized as having moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence and some medical value. Drugs like ketamine and testosterone are included in Schedule 3. So what does it matter if marijuana's classification changes? Money and access. So yes, it's likely that you live in a state where marijuana is fully legal, legal for medical purposes, or a mix of the two. But because it's a Schedule 1 drug, that makes it federally illegal. And because of that, banks have been hesitant to do business with companies involved with cannabis for fear of violating those federal laws. But if the classification changes to a lower category, those banks may be more willing to do business together. And those companies would get access to tax benefits that other companies already have, like being able to make tax deductions for business expenses like salaries and benefits for employees. Right now, businesses that sell marijuana are taxed on gross income but are not allowed to deduct any business expenses because even though it may be legal in the state, they're dealing with a Schedule 1 drug federally. Shifting from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 may also make it easier to conduct research on the health effects of cannabis consumption and for pharmaceutical companies to bring cannabis-based drugs to market. But here's the thing. There are lots of states where possession of marijuana is still a criminal offense, and changing from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 federally mostly won't change that. Now, in some states, it may reduce or eliminate the criminal penalties, but in other states, it probably won't. Lastly, changing the classification may give a bipartisan group of lawmakers in Washington, D.C. the momentum they need to finally get several pieces of legislation across the finish line that would legalize marijuana federally and would change banking regulations for the cannabis industry. But there is a long road between now and then. Just because the Department of Health and Human Services review of marijuana is complete and this recommendation has been made does not mean the DEA has to follow that recommendation. In fact, in 2016, when a similar recommendation was made, the DEA denied it. Right now, the DEA is conducting its own review and then will ultimately make a decision about whether or not to change the classification. As of today, there is no time frame for that decision to be made.